This is The Gorge, a podcast where my friend Sara and I gorge ourselves on overanalyzing a game or a game-related topic. The Gorge is brought to you by our subscribers and patrons at Patreon. You can find us at patreon.com/thegorgepodcast. We give you a shout-out promotion at the $5 a month donation. At the $20 a month donation, we give you a t-shirt to a year once every 6 months. Sara, what are we talking about today?
Hey, this week on The Gorge, we're talking about my family reunion for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. We're talking about Resident Evil 7, a game that I am very uncomfortably. I'm like, boy, they really got a lot of this down, like, pat, you know, like, perfect. Which is why I was like, yeah, this is definitely like my family reunion. All these damn accents and Whataburger cups and Walmart brand coffee makers.
And, trying to murder and eat you.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Is that not what happens at your family reunion?
No, mostly we just go to, like, a nearby lake and eat perch.
Well, I guess that's the difference between the North and the South.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. So, Resident Evil 7, a game that, went way more batshit at the end than I expected.
Resident Evil 7, one of the numerous Game of the Year contenders, like,
yes.
You know...
It's been a hot year for video games,
yeah, like, now
what the fuck?
Now that we're winding down on this year, like, looking back on it is like... There was so much crap that came out, and
so many video games.
It's also, like, I was thinking about this, a number of, like, franchises that were, like, quote-unquote redeemed. Like, we haven't had a good Resident Evil in forever. We haven't had a good Persona in forever. We've only had one other Nier, but Nier Automata destroyed, like, it crushed it.
Yeah, and like, like the original Nier was like a good story, but not a great video game. Mm-hmm. And so kind of like, Persona 5 was years removed from P4, and now we have, after 2 really fucking terrible Resident Evil games, we have Resident Evil 7, a damn good Resident Evil game.
Not just a good Resident Evil game, a good survival horror game in general.
A pretty good little survival horror game, but especially like the Resident Evil part, especially because it's basically just like a kind of like a remake of RE1, sort of.
It's a
reimagining, a soft reboot.
Well, like it's like a not like a retreading, but like it's harkening back to its roots in that way. Yeah,
with the whole the spooky manor in the middle of nowhere, and it's full of creepy shit that's trying to kill you. Like, yeah, it was pretty obvious, and it's packed to the gills. I'm not a big Resident Evil person. I've only played like 2 and 4, I think. And I played like a few minutes of 5 and went, this is garbage, and turned it off. So I don't know, like, a lot of the lore and stuff, but when I was listening to other people talk about it, it's just packed to the gills with references to other Resident Evil games, which just blows my mind.
Yeah. Like,
despite being such a huge departure from, like, the rest of the franchise.
Like, Resident Evil is kind of like one of those things where I'm, like, the same way I am with Mortal Kombat, where I'm, like, a second-degree fan.
Right.
Where it's, like, I'll read up on it, and I'll, like... watch LPs and stuff, but like I never actually really sat down and played a lot of them.
In your defense, you didn't even sit down and play this one.
No, I really didn't. We took advantage of the PS4 share feature, which is really cool and awesome.
Yeah, it's actually kind of fun.
Yeah. I bought it for Sara to play, and then I just watched her play it, because I'm a giant baby coward man.
Baby coward, scaredy cat man.
I am.
Because the first, a pretty good portion of the game is actually legitimately scary. I don't know, like what, like the first right up in.
Oh yeah, the first 2/3 easily. Like there's a point where it stops being legitimately scary, and starts being more like tense.
Yeah.
But like it stays like straight up horror for a long time.
Yeah, the helplessness, and I mean, like, the actual prologue of the game, I played it with some friends who are not big scaredy cat. Well, one of them is a big scaredy coward. And it scared the shit out of them. I had one of them texting me that they were afraid Jack was gonna come get them. And so, like, I know that the beginning of the game is a very effective horror game. And the rest of it is still, I mean, like, is still genuinely unsettling because, I think I mentioned it while we were playing it, but it does this thing very well where you get used to an area because you have to navigate it so much. So then when the game puts you into a new area, it's really, really unnerving because you get so used to certain parts of the game, like the mansion at the beginning of the game. Once you've gotten used to that stuff, and then the game throws you into a new area, that is actually genuinely disconcerting and kind of nerve-wracking.
Yeah, and
especially because the whole mansion is disgusting.
And not even that, but also, like, you know, when a cutscene happens or an event triggers, and you know, that doesn't mean that everything previous will stay the same, and maybe there's something new in an area you've been before, and so they do a really good job of, like, keeping that tension up, and you're always afraid to round a corner.
And, I mean, it has all the genre hallmarks of a good survival horror game. There's resource management, and unless you've got, like, an eagle eye, or a lot of those psychostimulants, you're always slightly low. You're never, like, so low on ammo that you can't manage, but, you're low enough on ammo to make you nervous, and there's a few parts in the game where you just have nothing, and you just have a knife, and you're like, great, I'm going to die. And yeah, it is... For a Resident Evil game, which in, like, you know, everything from 4 onwards was a little goofy and not terribly... I mean, like, 4 had a few moments that were actually kind of scary, but, for the most part, it's pretty goofy and it's handled it really well. Like, Resident Evil 7 is a legitimately scary video game in a lot of places, and, I'm really impressed by it. Like, that's, like, my little short beginning of the podcast summary is that I am incredibly impressed with Resident Evil 7. Probably not Game of the Year for me, like, not even close, but
you can see it winning awards, like, very easily.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, just on the visual aspects alone, it is really something else, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, like, I'm thinking, like, you know, I wrote our order, like, our notes order in a certain way, but I think we should just start with presentation, because that's the most, like, notable thing about this game, without a doubt. Yeah, because,
it looks so real, like, really, I can't imagine playing this game in VR, like, especially the first 2.5 hours, I think I'd probably throw up.
Oh, like, there's no way, it's so viscerally disgusting.
Uh-huh.
Like, there's a lot of, you know, and this is a game, I've seen this a lot with a lot of games recently, and I'm, like, we talked earlier about how we're getting away from the quote-unquote realism of Brown and Bloom, and I think we're now starting to enter a point, I think it started with The Last of Us, we're entering a point where, like, they've realized that realism isn't just a hypertexture and isn't a high poly count thing, it's making sure your environments, like, look like people have been there.
Yeah, like a place that people have been in. And definitely this is a house that has been lived in really disgusting ways. But it's been lived in.
Yeah, and like, you know, there's so much stuff going, like, so much clutter and mold and trash bags and just all this gross stuff scattered around the house that it's like, and it's so, and again, it, like, part of it is that it's so well detailed and looks so good, is that it feels real. There's that part in the beginning where you have to go into, like, the flooded basement.
Yes.
And you're like, you don't want to go in that water. You don't want to
go in that water.
You don't want to make your video game character go into the water on your TV because you can feel how slimy it must be.
And then when it's not Clancy's body, what's the other guy who gets killed down in the basement?
I think it's like AJ or something.
Yeah, I don't even remember, but that guy, the not Clancy camera guy, when his body pops up and it's all just like nasty and rotted, and the game is so gross looking. Like, there's so many moments, like when I was replaying the intro with my friends and we got to the bit where the bakers tried to force feed Ethan the food, we were all just like, no, don't, because it looks so gross. I mean, everything is really, really gross.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things you do in that game is when you go into the manor and you're in that little small, like, side kitchen. Yeah. And it's like, all you can do is open drawers and look inside the pot and open the fridge. And it's just, the game is going, hey, this is what you're in for.
This is just be ready for this for a pretty short game, but how long do you think it took us? Like 12 hours?
Around
10 to 12 hours?
Yeah, 10 to 12 hours. But, it's enough that you get a satisfying, event, like, story thing, and it never stops being that gross. Like, there's,
No.
Not until you leave the manor, and by that, like, not when you leave the manor is when you're finally used to how gross it all is. Right,
yeah, you've kind of adapted, and then, like, once you leave the manor, that is when it loses its scariness and goes into just, like, tension instead. Yeah. That kind of fits, because everything after that is a bit more cleaned up and sterile, because there's all those flashbacks. It's the mines. So, and, like, I mentioned it kind of briefly, but what really cracks me up and what, like, I would love to see what the notes they took, because they clearly sent, like, a fact-finding team to, like, the south to make it look like a place down here, because it's so funny. I joked, but they really do have Whataburger cups in the trash, and this is such a detail, but as soon as I saw it, it was just like, oh my god, they kind of nailed that look. This is just small detail, but the baker's coffee maker is, before it broke like 3 months ago and I had to get a new one. I had the exact same coffee maker, because it's the $11 coffee maker that every broke person in the South gets from Walmart.
Yeah, it is. It's the exact same.
It is that exact coffee maker, like down to the numbers on the side, and I just think that's so, like, that was what it's those little things that kind of put it in place as like especially if you live down here, you go, oh, okay, so this really is, like, they got it pretty right, actually, yeah, which is shocking. Not enough Jesus memorabilia, but there are some angels and stuff, so I'm just gonna take that as a...
And there's college football paraphernalia.
Yeah, but not LSU colors, because that would get them sued. Mm-hmm. But there is college football paraphernalia. That's,
yeah, I mean, I can see, like, Whataburger, like, kind of maybe offering a little bit of promotion, or maybe it's just one of those things where, like, did you know that, like, in Dark Souls, I think it is, one of the rubble textures is ripped from a photograph of a landfill?
What?
And you
really?
can tell that because there is a Mountain Dew logo, I think it is. Or, like,
that's
I think
awesome.
It's like Mountain Dew, or it's like a laundry detergent, like, it's like a green bottle.
That's amazing.
And it's like, because they just didn't notice that their landfill texture had this label in it.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's amazing. No, I think the Whataburger cup thing is just because it's like the recognizable orange and white, and they can get away with that. But the NCAA is a little bit more litigious, so you can't exactly put, like, LSU colors in your video game. But even then,
you can't make your cannibals, zombie cannibals, fans of a college football team.
Yeah, not without somebody coming to sue you. But I mean, even then, they got the paraphernalia right. There's angel statues all over the place. It's all really well done, and it really kind of helps sell the setting. And I'm so glad that toward the, like, once you depopulate an area, I'm really glad you can kind of wander around.
Yeah.
So I could just boggle at the details at a bunch of times, which was great. And, like, God, what else?
One of the things I made a note of, and it's kind of something I noticed, like, while we were playing, is that I love the UI.
The HUD is good. The HUD is really good.
Just stark black, gray, white, clean lines, and it's good because, like, you know, they could have done, like, making a little bit more, like, in-universe, or, like, having it have, like, a sort of more creepy aesthetic to it, but I think that would have taken away from the actual game.
I am surprised by the cleanliness of the map, but that might be because I'm so used to Silent Hill maps.
Yeah, which are just which are literally just pieces of paper that the main character draws on.
Yeah, exactly. So like the cleanly, futuristic niceness of the map was a little surprising, but not bad. Like, I appreciated it because I knew where the fuck I was going.
Yeah, by making it, like, simple and like, clean like that, is that they did it so that it wouldn't detract from the environment.
Yeah. And then there's the wristwatch thing, the iPhone, actually, I noticed this in the credits after we were done with it. It's a Pebble. I mean, it's not actually a Pebble, but you know, like the Pebble watch?
Yeah.
Because they credit Pebble in the actual credits, so I guess they got the model for it from Pebble or something. It's really weird. So yeah, Ethan's fucking product placement Pebble Codex. I like that as your health monitor. I really that was a nice, you know, they didn't need to use too much overdone, like, blood on. I mean, the cherry jam on the screen was kind of funny sometimes. A
little bit, yeah. But I mean, like, you need some sort of indicator when you're taking, like, gratuitous damage like that, and that's just a standard way to do it, you know?
And yeah, they did a good job of kind of taking the Resident Evil attaché case. I'll try that again.
Attaché case.
Thank you. That thing. And turning it into like a really simplified form for this game, where it's just you get backpacks too, which is an incredible mental image. Just Ethan booting down a door, lugging 2 backpacks full of shit, screaming, "Give me back my wife!"
It's kind of like how we talked about when we talked about it off camera when we're playing Wolfenstein, and I mentioned that BJ's just strapping helmets to himself. Like, there's a reason these games are in first person, and that's so you don't actually see. You know, you can just pretend.
You can just pretend, because Ethan just booting down the doors, like I said, with 2 backpacks stuffed full of herbs. Is a really good mental image. But yeah, no, the whole inventory management thing, it's just so Resident Evil that, and like at first, when they first announced the game, I was like, you know, because we talked, it's funny, because this is one of the first games, other than like maybe Persona 5, that we actually have talked about during E3. Well, no, Horizon as well.
Yeah.
But you know, we're finally getting to that point where we've been recording for long enough now that we can say, well, we remember when we saw it during E3, and we talked about it on the show, that it didn't seem at all like Resident Evil. It seemed like they were trying to capitalize off of PT, which they claim they weren't, because it's been in development from before PT, but I wonder. I mean,
and you know, and the thing is, like, I don't care. Like, that's, you should be curbing from PT, because PT was generally terrifying, and it is a good source of inspiration.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I don't care. But I'm wondering if they kind of changed some of the aesthetic of the game, like late in development, to kind of take some of PT into account, which is fine if they do. I mean, yeah, fuck yeah, go for it, because PT is a masterpiece despite being a demo.
Yeah, not like Konami's gonna do anything with it.
Right? Motherfuckers. But, you know, I didn't, when we saw it at E3 and when the demos came out and all that stuff, when I watched the YouTube videos, it just didn't seem like a Resident Evil game at all. I mean, for one, it seemed legitimately scary. And for 2, it was a bit creepier. It felt more like a supernatural kind of horror.
Yeah, that's one of the things, like, it was most notable about. It's like, you have ghost girls running around and stuff, and that is decidedly not Resident Evil, aka the game in Japan called Biohazard.
Right, yeah, and that's the subtitle for the game, Resident Evil. It's in America, it's Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, and in Japan, it's Biohazard Resident Evil 7, which I really like.
It's and you know, and they also did that cool thing with the logo where in Japan, in English, the VI is the VIL is yellow to make the 7. and in Biohazard, the Z is a like regular 7.
Yeah, it was really cool. That's just good. That's just some good ass logo work. Good job,
yeah.
graphic designers at Capcom.
like you know, someone at like the logo designer for Capcom like saw that and went, oh!
Just had like a moment of genius. Absolutely,
Yeah.
It was one of those like brilliant moments. But like yeah, it originally just didn't look or anything like Resident Evil, but then as you get into it and you play it more and you meet like Lucas and all this, you get like your fucking codex, all this stuff is going on. Even before they name drop Chris Redfield, it felt like a Resident Evil game, just a spookier Resident Evil game. Because
like,
all this goofy shit's happening too.
If you dropped this game in front of someone, like you said, you didn't show them the logo, you know, you just put the controller in their hand like when the game started. And you said, you know, you told them what series is this game in? You know, and they would play it for a bit, and they might say, oh, is it some sort of indie game or whatever? But then once you're like a couple hours in, you're like, oh, you can see the Resident Evil starting to like bleed through a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, like, Lucas is such a fucking Resident
He's
Evil
a total Resident Evil villain.
That is really the only... I mean, like, that's what we were saying the whole time we were playing through Lucas's section. Was like, look at this fucking Resident Evil guy. That's what he is. He's goofy and over the top, and he's not actually infected, and all this stuff, and he's just, you know, dumbass Lucas.
Yeah.
And he's so funny and overdone that you're just like... there's only one game franchise he could really be a part of, you know?
You have a guy who's making traps. Like, you know,
a fucking, like, maze. Like, come on. You know?
No, it's great. And, like, because Jack and Marguerite are legitimately terrifying.
Yes!
Like, you know, and you wouldn't think they were Resident Evil villains because that's not how Resident Evil does it until, like, you get to the point where Jack turns into an eyeball monster.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh yeah, okay, now I get it. Yep, that's what he's from.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, Jack's ridiculous eyeball monster form was really... That is the exact moment. Because, like, right after that, the game stops being, like, scary and just starts being tense.
Yeah.
That is the exact moment it was over as, like, a horror game. Because here's this fucking goofy, googly-eyed horror monster thing, like, grabbing you through, and he's, like, 2 stories tall.
I know, he's just this big thing. And, you know, and it's... I think it's from The Best Friends, where they talk about how Resident Evil villains are always, what was your plan? Where it's like, I'm going to evolve into a giant eyeball monster. Okay, well, what next? What, like, when you kill Chris, what do you do after? Like, what's step 2 in defeating, like, afterwards? Do you have a serum to turn back?
I guess in the Baker's case, they have, like, a vibe. It's not really, like, a, what was your plan? It's more like they've gone crazy, and now, like, they're just even more infected than ever.
Yeah.
So, like, the Bakers at least have, like, a... I mean, like, Wesker. It's like Wesker who turns into some fucking thing, right? Like, I don't know.
Wesker and Dr. Birkin and, like...
they all turn
like,
to fucking things. Like, so what's your plan there? Like, the Bakers are just they're boss monsters. That's what they turn into. Because they're not, like, the actual villains of that. I mean, they're the villains of the game, but they're not the antagonists of the game, I guess.
Yeah, well, something like, there's almost as much victims as you are.
Yeah, there we go. They don't really have a plan, but I mean, he's still a fucking goofy, googly-eyed boss monster form.
Yeah, so, like, it's a good way to, like, you know, they do a good job of subtly being Resident Evil until, like, it is, like, it's a gradient of your modern day standard survival horror, you know, game that you would see on, like, Steam or, you know, as a demo or, like, someone's indie game, you know?
Right. And
then it becomes, like, a full-fledged thing once you start getting more guns and once your enemies start becoming, you know, weirder and stop being quite so scary and start being just more threatening.
Annoying?
Yeah.
I mean, that's all the molded really are, is annoying.
Well, I remember when you and we were playing it, and we first saw the molded, It's almost like relief, because it's like, oh,
yeah,
yep, that's a thing I can shoot. All right, yep, that's comfortable.
Satisfaction. That's just catharsis after spending, because you run into the molded for the first time in like a back room of the main house, and like you run into it after you just got done running away from Jack, because he's unkillable and he's just been chasing you around the mansion. So you run into the molded, and it's like satisfaction, because this is a thing whose head I can just blow off and call it a day. Thank God. You know? Like, it's so much easier.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's you know, they're like the Las Plagas or whatever, you know, it's just like, good, this is my enemy that I can kill now. It feels much better to have something that I can pull the trigger at, and it will stay dead.
But the molded still suck.
They're very weird.
They're not my favorite. They are of like the mook kind of enemy. Like, as good as all the art and direction and design in this game is, it's so weird that the molded are so bland. Like, they're not even that scary, and they don't even come in that many. I mean, every molded looks basically the same. Like, you have your skittery fat version and your fat version and your like armored version, and then your regular, the first one you ever run into, shambles version, and that's it. There's only 4 types, and all of them are functionally exactly the same looking. Like, one's a little bit fatter, one is low to the ground and skinny, but that's it. They're all the same kind of black, gross, slimy stuff, and it's like, the rest of the game has all of this great design stuff going on. You couldn't think of ways to maybe slightly visually differentiate them a little bit? Really?
There could have been even just like, there could have just been like more like model variations of the same enemy. Like, just make them look a little bit different here and there, and have them still recognizable as like an enemy type, but like just change them up so that when you do have 3 in the room, they aren't all doing the exact same animation.
Yeah, they all do the exact same animation. They all look identical, and that's not even scary. It's just kind of like, it's annoying because they do that fucking head bobble thing when you're trying to shoot them in the head. I hate that. And they all look exactly the same. It's not even scary. It's just kind of obnoxious. Like, great, now I have to deal with these things.
You know, it's kind of funny because, like, thinking about it, like, it's easy to compare this to, like, 4 or even the classic ones, but like specifically 4, because that's like probably the most iconic Resident Evil game now.
Yeah.
You know, but like even the Las Plagas, like, you know, they had that thing where they were just kind of standard, you know, zombie type enemies, but occasionally when you killed one, its head would explode and you'd have to kill it again.
Yes, and even the Las Plagas, you know, the Ganados, they all had like different models because they were villagers turned into monsters. So
yeah.
You know, there was like 3 or 4 different versions of Ganados.
Yeah, know? It wasn't much, but it was enough so that like you were still seeing different things throughout your game.
And there was a little bit of visual variety in comparison to. I mean, this is still a very strong game, but to me, the blandness of the molded just stand out more compared to everything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, compared to how visually distinct like every room in the manor is, and how you aren't really seeing a lot of the same like clutter object, you know, over and over again. You're seeing a lot of variety in every room, and like how every room is you know, has been trashed over the years.
Yeah, see, that's the interesting thing. You bring that up now, and I just thought about that. I think the visual variety of the areas of Resident Evil 7 are so good that if you showed me a picture of like a room, I could probably tell you where it is in the house. Like, on the estate. Not just like the bedrooms, because like, yeah, of course, Lucas's old bedroom is easy to find. But if you just showed me any rando room from the old house, the one where Marguerite chases you around, I could probably like pick it out instantly, you know?
Yeah. Because they're so visually distinct, and you know, it's great because like when you're going back and forth, like you always have like a landmark or something to point at, like, so you're not checking your map constantly. You know where you're going, where doors lead you to.
And it's so, again, to not bitch about the molded too much, I'll let it go after this, but with the incredible visual variety of the estate, with all of these different, every area in the estate is really, really different. Every room in every area is very different. It's just kind of a shame that the molded are so nothing. They're just kind of there. It feels like they made a game, and then they went, oh shit, we forgot to put in enemies that
yeah, like...
Quick, make something fast!
We gave Ethan all these guns and bullets, but we have nothing for him to shoot. Oh, crap.
Yeah, because, like, you kill all the Bakers, basically, like, except for, like, there's boss fights, yeah, but most of the fights with the Bakers are still, like, scripted sequences, Yeah. So, it's kind of like, oh crap, we need to give you a reason to use the fucking awesome shotguns.
Yeah.
Because the shotgun is great. Basically, I just use the shotgun for the whole game. Because, like, with the fucking molded garbage head bobble, it's pretty much the only way to, like, get a consistent kill on them, which sucks.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like, that's kind of my only point of... Well, the last level kind of sucks, too. But other than that, I really have, like, very few points of negativity about Resident Evil 7, which is odd.
Yeah, it's so great to, like, return to form. This game feels like... It feels like doing, like, a slow-paced first-person, navigate through the manor. It's the best parts of what made classic Resident Evil good, which is, having one central location that you go through. 1 and 2 both were one was in the manor, 2 was in the police station, and it's like, you are navigating through this room and slowly getting access to more and more of it. And also it gives you the good, the shooting, they go kind of like faux over the shoulder that RE4 made popular. And it's like, it's a good combination of both those things. Yeah. To make like kind of like an ideal Resident Evil experience. 7 really feels like what made the classic and the new versions of Resident Evil good.
Yeah. I mean, I can totally get behind that. And it's like, it really is just a damn good game is the thing. And, and I was really shocked by how good it was. And I was honestly really shocked by the writing chops. And that is because it was written by an outside source. That is why Resident Evil 7 actually has some pretty dang good writing, because it was written by one of the guys who helped write Fear. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you can really see that through with the mental horror kind of things. Yeah.
Yeah. Scary little girls.
Scary ghost girl and all that.
Ooh,
and
scary ghost girl.
There's just so much like, I know you were complaining about like Ethan being slow and everything like that, but that's what makes a survival horror game, is that the sacrifice of like total control and all that is what really, and we're kind of blending more into gameplay and story. Like, it's kind of hard to talk about this in an organized way because
that's all right.
Yeah,
that's
but
what we do.
Yeah, but it's really refreshing kind of to play. As much as I complain about it, like, it's refreshing to play as like a new character in the story, and
right.
to have it be so far removed from the ongoing story of Chris, Jill, and Leon.
Right.
Like, it's kind of nice to get away from them for a little bit and explore sort of an outside perspective of the whole outbreak thing that's been going on.
Though I do wonder, because Ethan, like, exists in, like, Resident Evil Landia, so this is a thing that I don't really know about. Like I said, I don't know a lot about Resident Evil lore and stuff like that, but shouldn't crazy monster outbreaks and stuff kind of just be, like, a thing people are at least marginally aware of in this world? So... Yeah,
like after the events of 6, which was kind of like a worldwide event, like, you can't, like... I think they did a cover-up for Raccoon City.
Right.
Like, and it's pretty easy to cover up a small town in Spain.
Right.
And I might have covered it up somehow in 5, like in Africa. But, like, I think 6 is global. And it's kind of hard to hide that now.
Yeah.
So, like, Ethan should be aware that, like, there might be some monster things going on.
There's some shit going on, because it's kind of like everybody is aware that some shit is always going on apparently now, but I don't know. I don't know anything about Resident Evil. I have, like, the most baseline knowledge of Resident Evil lore, so who am I to judge?
Yeah. But, you know, and I think that it adds, like, it helps that he is kind of an outsider because they wanted to make this feel more like the first game, where you are playing as someone who's inexperienced with this kind of thing and, you know, who doesn't have the foreknowledge. You know, you talked about this while we were playing it, where I'm like, man, if Leon were here, none of this would be bothering him. He'd be cracking jokes. He'd be, you know, he'd just be, you know, making fun of everything he sees. He wouldn't be taking this seriously. Mm-hmm. He wouldn't give a crap about eating people, you know. He'd say
probably would run a little bit faster. I mean, like, I know it's part of the game, and I get that it's like the genre convention. That's how it's like. I know that's how it's scary. It's like Silent Hills, you know, 1 through 3.
Yeah.
And 4. Where it's scary because you're just a regular Joe and you don't know how to use a gun and you're not in shape and you're just kind of an asshole and here's all this stuff trying to kill you, so you can't run very fast and you don't know how to aim a gun. And like, that's all well and good, but really, Ethan's movement speed is barely a step above dead. You know? I
mean, in his defense, he did get his leg cut off really early on.
I know, but he could maybe shake that leg just a little bit harder. You know what I mean? Like, come on, buddy. We gotta go. Like, especially in some of these boss fights where you've got, like the fucking chainsaw.
Yeah.
I almost don't want to admit how much trouble I had with the chainsaw duel, and then when we came back to it, I had, like, no trouble with the chainsaw duel,
we stopped playing Resident Evil 7 because of the chainsaw boss fight for a good while.
3 months,
yeah.
Something like that, because other games happened, and we're like, let's just play those instead.
Yeah.
Which is why we're talking about a game that came out in, like, February, in October. And also because it's a spooky game, and it's October. But, like, it's mostly because I was shamefully unable to get past the chainsaw duel. I mean, we must have retried it 7 or 8 times.
Oh, yeah.
Something like that. And then when we came back to it, I got it in 1 try.
Yep, first try, easy, it was done and over with.
I'm so mad. I'm still mad about it. I almost wanted it to be hard to, like...
You'd feel vindicated?
I'd feel vindicated. Like, maybe it's just a hard boss fight and I'm not an idiot. But I think I was just an idiot, and this time I figured it out, so it's fine. It's fine. We didn't have any troubles after that. So
no, it went pretty smoothly after that.
It went pretty smooth. I think we died, like, twice to Marguerite, maybe.
Yeah,
once or twice.
Yeah, Marguerite was a bit tricky because, like, you have to figure out what her deal is first, and then you can go for it. But there was a good boss. Like, there's good boss fights in here.
Yeah, you know you're in Resident Evil when you say the words chainsaw duel.
Yeah. You know, they have to do something that's over the top and dumb, and for this one it was picking up 2 chainsaws and having a sword fight with them.
Yep, and Jack's fucking weird. I don't even know what that chainsaw is. It's like a chainsaw fork. Because it had, like, 2...
scissors? Like a chainsaw scissors.
Chainsaw scissors. Yeah, it was weird. And the bit where you run Jack over with your car.
Yeah.
That was pretty Resident Evil 2. That was pretty good. Felt satisfying.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I needed to feel good, was being able to run Jack over.
Well, also he drops a Marvel vs. Capcom reference in there.
Wait, does he?
Yeah, when he says, "I'm gonna take you for a ride."
Oh my god.
And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, there's no way that wasn't intentional. It's Capcom.
Why can't he be in Marvel? Why can't he
I don't know. I don't know. Jack should have been in Infinite instead of Nemesis. Like,
because, like, when was the last time Nemesis was in anything, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was in Resident Evil 3 and that's it. Yeah?
Yeah.
Like, whatever. I guess but, like, okay, don't get me started on that one.
No.
Because Infinite is such a mess, and I don't know anything about Marvel or really Capcom properties. I can look at Infinite and go, ugh.
My Infinite rant will come during our roundup at the end of the year.
Oh boy,
that's
I'm excited.
That's when I'll talk about my feelings about Infinite.
But the general consensus of Marvel versus Capcom Infinite is, ugh.
Yeah.
Oh. And yeah, Jack should have been in that. But it was, that's like a major like Resident Evil moment.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few of those, and then they still manage. You know, you think after the car thing, you're like, all right, this isn't gonna be scary anymore. Wrong.
No,
and
it's
then like
you know,
and
even
then, like after the chainsaw duel, even
yeah. Every time you think like you're getting comfortable with the manner and how scary it is, it's like, okay, well, here's a brand new area.
Yep.
Oh. Like when we were decked out. We had a handgun, a shotgun, we had full health, all our stuff, and then we got into the backyard.
Yeah.
And you were like,
all right.
Oh, I don't want to be in here.
All right, I forgot this is still a horror game, and I'm still spookified. And it was so, like, it's so effective to just have these little new areas that are full of horror, and boy, I mean, like, a lot of Marguerite's whole fucking transformation thing was probably one of the best, like, moments when we came down. We had the arm, or what the fuck ever it was, and we had to go get her we were trying to go get our lantern. And we turn around, we go back to the hole she fell through, and we just see, like, one creepy, crawly fucking arm.
Yeah.
And I just paused the game, and I was like, nope, I'm good. Thanks, Resident Evil. I think I'm satisfied. I think we're done here. But yeah, that whole thing... What are you doing? Sorry, my dog was trying to eat something. Don't mind me.
Yeah, but it's... And the thing with Marguerite's I really liked about it is that, like, you don't really, at first, quite realize that she has transformed into something. Mm-hmm. Like, you see the arm, and you're like, was it longer than, or was it always like that? And then she does a thing where you're climbing up the staircase, and she breaks through the window and grabs you, and then you get a good look at it, and you're like, are her arm, and then you see her.
Yeah, and it's all, like, disgusting, gross monster vagina.
Yeah.
And it's horrible. It's just shoot her in her nasty monster baby maker. And it's vile. I mean, it's the best way to be like, this is how disgusting this game is, because here is the nastiest thing you can possibly imagine.
And she makes bugs.
She makes, like, gross bug baby nests and stuff, and it's horrible. And the part in the old house where you have to crawl between the walls, and there's giant centipedes crawling all over you. No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm never gonna play this game. Apparently, like, one of my friends played it in VR and lasted like 30 minutes, and I was like, nope.
There's no way. There's no way in hell I could ever play it in VR. There's not a chance.
Nope. Even knowing what's coming, the bit when Mia grabs your hand, like when you're. Like, at the very beginning of the game, when you're trying to get up to the stairs. Like, even when I knew that was going to happen, it still scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I still screamed like a little girl when I was playing it with my friends.
Well, you know, it's such a good response, because, like, there's a point where we go back to that initial area at the beginning of the game. You know, you go back to it near the end. And it's like, when we went back there, we were both like, oh god, what's coming?
Right.
Like, we're back into this area that was, like, legitimately terrifying at first, even though now we're fully prepared for it. Like, what's going to happen here that'll be worse?
And I guess that's a good way to kind of segue into... There's a lot to say about the story, because the story is pretty simple, but the story is good. And, like, that was a really effective moment of the whole kind of realizing that you're going a little crazy. I just really liked all of the Mia hallucinations.
Yes.
You know?
Because,
like, that was really clever.
You know, and we touched on this earlier, where it's like, when we first saw the trailer for this, where it's like, why are they doing little ghost girls and, like, creepy kind of, like, ethereal, psychological stuff? This is not what Resident Evil is. Resident Evil is always gross monsters and zombies and, you know, slime and body parts.
Yeah, like science-based horror.
Yeah, and they did a good job of having their PT horror, where it's like there might be something watching you. There's someone, you know, like a ghost watching after you, or, you know, something psychological. And they get their Resident Evil B-movie schlock in there. And it works. It works really well. It combines perfectly into this, like, good thing, because it's... You're not seeing ghosts, you're having hallucinations because of the drug that you're infected with.
Right, you're kind of infected with the fucking E-series, whatever, blah blah. If I had to complain about one thing, it's the fact that there was a massive info dump at the end of the game. And, like, I guess that it needed to happen so you could finally have an explanation for what the fuck's been going on for 10 hours. But it was a huge info dump. I think we were sitting around reading documents for like 20 minutes. Reading
news articles and documents and stuff, and just like learning about it, and literally going to the lab, which to be fair is a Resident Evil thing. It's here's the secret lab that's nearby,
right?
That has all the answers for you.
Yeah, but that final level still kind of sucks.
It was yeah.
It's not great. It's kind of boring. Just like, boy, here's room after room full of fucking molded things, and the most nondescript and boring part of the game. But that's fine. It's not perfect, but it's still damn good. Mm-hmm. And it led up to a good final moment. Like the whole everything going through it's the guest house. That's where the first part of the game takes place.
Yeah.
Where you go back to. And the hallucinations, and I mean, there was a few kind of a genuine, like, moment of what the fuck is going on when Mia is, like, attacking you with the chainsaw. I'm, like, wondering, are we taking damage or not,
like,
you know? Are we actually getting hurt? Should I waste my ammo on this?
Yeah, is this a real, like, fight, or is it, like, a trick, and we're going to snap back to normal? And, you know, you even have, like, your HUD flashing, mm-hmm. the damage taking red, and, you know, you can pull the trigger, so it's like, yeah, maybe this is a real encounter we have to survive or something.
Mm-hmm. And that's really, that's just, it's fun when a game kind of makes you question your sanity.
Yeah.
And it even with the lameness of the salt mine, because the salt mine is not great.
Yeah, the salt mine and the lab are just kind of like, like, I liked the ship. Mm-hmm. The ship was cool, especially the flashback with good. Mia. Because, like I mentioned to you when we were playing, is the bit with Mia on the ship, that could have been a whole game.
Yeah, you could have built a whole game just around, like, the ship stuff, just being stuck on. I kind of just they technically did, but all of that trying to track down Eveline and fighting the monsters there, and Mia being kind of a badass, was all great, and oh, go ahead.
Like, if not a game, then, like, that could have been a DLC. Like,
yeah, it felt like a DLC in the middle of the game, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like a Lost Chapter DLC or something that explains what happened with Mia. You know, like, it felt
exactly.
like something you would have spent, like, you know, $10 on. But instead, it was just kind of there in the middle of the game. And it was a good little section, because I really like area transversal puzzles.
Mm-hmm. Going back and forth between places.
And trying to find, like, new routes, and you know, well, this is on this floor, and this is on that, and it was all really well done and interesting, and I actually very much enjoyed it. Very
kind of like, you know, like survival horror, but kind of like, you know, kind of that Metroidvania style of just, like, here's your big open area, and you have to slowly work your way through doors to open up more doors.
Yeah, where it felt more, to kind of keep it in comparison to other Resident Evil games, where, like, Resident Evil 1 feels, or, like, the first part of 7 feels more like 1, the boat section, like, the flashbacks with Mia, feel more kind of like 4.
Right, yeah.
You know? Where it's that kind of tension, and here's a bunch of stuff trying to kill you, and you're on, like, a mission kind of thing.
It's a bit more action-y than, like, the earlier parts.
Because she's running around with a fucking combat knife and a machine gun.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more action-y.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I mean, like, yeah. I'm really surprised by how much I really like Resident Evil 7. Like, it's a game I'd like to come back to at another point, and we're obviously going to play the 2 big DLCs.
Yeah, the deal, like, we didn't get any of the other DLCs, which I do want to brush on recently, just because, like, I you know, talk about them a little bit, because even though we haven't played them, I really appreciate what they're doing, because they aren't just like, here's a mission pack. It's here is a whole new way to play it. Here is a game where you are trapped in a room and you have to find your way out of the room, and you can't let Marguerite know that you're trying to escape. You have to, if you solve a puzzle, you have to put the puzzle back to normal before she comes back. Or you're playing blackjack with Lucas, and you have to win that way while he's trying to cheat, or or whatever. Or there's they gave you a whole bunch of like new experiences, and that's the way DLC should be done.
Yeah, and especially because a lot of it, except for the 2 final packs, one of which is free, which is great.
Yeah.
The Chris Redfield DLC pack is going to be free, and then the last I think it's the last DLC pack for 7 is called The End of Zoe, and explains like what happens to Zoe. I don't think that one will be free, but the majority of, except for Daughters, the majority of the stuff that's come out post-release now is not even required. Like, you don't even need it to get the full story. It's just more fun game modes if you want them. Which is kind of how DLC always should be.
Yeah,
it should
exactly.
just be more stuff. Or if it is, like, new story, it should be like a side story. It shouldn't be part of the main canon. I'm looking at you, Dragon Age Inquisition.
Yeah, exactly. Or Shadow of War. Doing that.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the ending shit is, but I know it's stupid.
Right?
Yeah.
That's stupid. Don't do that. Like, there's the story DLC we've gotten so far, and again, Daughters is story DLC that reveals more of the main plot, but 1, it's not necessary, and 2, it came with a bunch of other stuff, so it's fine.
Yeah, and even Daughters, like, everything that happens in Daughters is told to you in the game. This is just your chance to experience it. Like, you aren't really learning anything new, you're just kind of experiencing what, the hallucination Jack tells you near the end of the game.
And really, my only problem with Daughters, and this is such a nitpick, but it bugs me, so whatever, I'm gonna say it. There's a bunch of journals in the game that establish that Evelyn's mind takeover of the Bakers took some time. It took, like, a few weeks. Because they mentioned that, like, Marguerite mentions that she's kind of feeling normal and that she feels sick, and then her last journal entry, she's, like, gone crazy. But Daughters kind of makes it seem like it happens in a single night.
Yeah, like, it all just sort of occurs, and then it's over.
Yeah. Which kind of sucked. Like, it would have been cool to have, like, a time-lapse DLC where, like, spooky stuff happens every night for, like, a week or something like that, but that's just critiquing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's fine. It's canon, whatever. I basically just wanted to see more of the Bakers being nice people, because they seemed very nice, and I feel bad for them now.
Yeah, like, they did a really good job of, like, not even just, like, they have that monologue at the end, where that, like, hallucination at the end, where Jack kind of gives you the details. And, this whole thing started because Jack found a little girl and took her in, because she was lost, and, that no one was around to take care of her.
Yeah, she was shipwrecked after a hurricane, and, they felt bad for her. And the beginning of Daughters, where it makes them seem like, kind of like nice, normal people, was, you feel kind of like after all this, like, and the end monologue with Jack, you just kind of feel bad for them after a while, because they just kind of seemed like a normal, if kind of dysfunctional family. Lucas has always been an asshole.
Yeah, Lucas is always a dick, but
Lucas
the
was
others...
always horrible, but everybody else was kind of, fine. And then they get turned into, like, these awful monsters, so then you spent all this time, like, shit-talking them, and you're like, aw, I actually kind of feel bad for the Bakers now. Okay, that's good.
It's a lot like in Resident Evil 4, the end credits of 4.
Yeah.
That just show you the townspeople that you've been just killing this whole time, and have been trying to kill you, and it just shows them before this all happened, and they're just going about their daily lives, and it reminds you that they're people.
Yeah, and it was really, it was all very well done. I mean, especially because, I was spending a lot of this game just like, fuck, I hate Jack so much.
Yeah.
I hate this fucking chainsaw duel so much. And yeah, and they did a great, another little thing is they did a good job with the voice acting, except for Zoe.
Yeah.
Everybody else's southern accents were spot on, especially Jack and Marguerite. And then there's Zoe, where the fuck are you from, girl? Really? Like, sometimes she, like, when you first talk to her on the phone, she sounds like super Louisiana. She's like, my name's Zoe. And you're like, oh, cool. And then the next time she talks, it's like a northerner. And then again, sometimes she sounds like she's got, like, a weird British accent going on. And I'm like, who are you? And I thought it was part of the character at first. I thought she was, like, some weirdo who was, like, not part of the family. And then eventually she mentions that she's, like, Jack's actual daughter. And I'm like, oh, okay, so you just have a bad voice actor.
Yeah,
okay.
The actress just didn't do a very good job at actually doing the accent.
Yeah, that's all it was. It wasn't, like, a character thing. It's just that she can't do a southern accent. That's fine. But yeah, otherwise everybody else sounded great. Oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, Ethan and Mia are surprisingly interesting characters at the end of it, because I thought they were just going to kind of be blank slates to inflict punishment upon.
Yeah, like, Mia gets to reveal that she's actually working for some sort of organization that we don't learn the name of. And
yeah, it's not Umbrella.
Yeah,
I don't think it's Tricell.
It's explicitly not Umbrella.
Yeah, it's weird.
So it's like, well, what other evil group is out there doing this stuff?
There's another evil corporation trying to turn people into zombies for weapons, which is never a good idea.
Please be excited for Resident Evil 8!
Or the Chris DLC, which is clearly where they're going to reveal that shit.
Yeah, they're going to put some answers in that, for sure.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
But yeah, and then Ethan being starting off as just like a normal, like, probably...
terrified dude.
Yeah, probably just a guy who works in an office building, and he ends up...
Yeah, because he shows up to the fucking bayou in a pair of, like, boat shoes and khakis.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude.
And, he ends up being, like, this kind of... He ends up being a Resident Evil character. Like,
that's exactly what it is.
Sarcastic and making a bunch of jokes and, like...
wisecracking and telling... I love any time he tells any of the boss characters to go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
Like, Ethan Winters says what I am thinking at all times.
When Jack... I think it's when Marguerite transforms and he just goes, well, that's special.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. And when you do finally kill Marguerite, and he's like, now just fucking stay dead.
Yeah.
Like... Yeah, that's the transformation into a Resident Evil protagonist, with all of his fucking wisecracks and being so over this shit by the end of it.
Yeah, he's tired and he's not even scared anymore. He just wants it to be done.
He just wants to go home with his wife, because why would you ever pick somebody other than Mia at the end of the game?
They give you that choice, and it's like a meaningless choice, because I'm pretty sure picking Zoe just immediately puts you on the bad end. Like, you don't even get, like partway through when, like, suddenly it turns bad. It's like, no, it's automatic, like, you're on the bad route now.
Yeah, I think she dies pretty much as soon, like, on the boat on your way out. Like, so, whatever. So why even give us the choice? And then, with that said, why would you even pick Zoe anyways? She's just some rando who has been talking to you on the radio. And yeah, she's been helping you. But, like, you came here to get your wife.
Yeah.
There's your wife. You can cure your wife and go the fuck home. Why wouldn't you? Like, whatever.
Yeah, it's a dumb, meaningless choice.
It's a dumb, meaningless choice to make people who are into short-haired girls pick Zoe. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, like, yeah, I have, it's weird how much when I think back to Resident Evil 7, how much I liked Resident Evil 7,
Yeah, and,
because I didn't expect it.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I didn't expect to enjoy it as a Resident Evil game as much as we ended up enjoying it. Like, I expected to enjoy it.
A good way to put it.
I expected to enjoy it as a survival horror game, but I didn't expect like when the Resident Evil started happening. I didn't expect to it's cool though.
Yeah, like I thought, because I do give Resident Evil story, its overarching plot, a lot of shit because it is kind of shit. But I didn't expect to be as excited as I was when I saw, like, the Umbrella Corporation logo, and I saw, like, I heard Chris's name and stuff like that.
Well, like, I've heard people, like, say one way or the other they didn't like seeing Chris. I think most people are complaining because, like, he's not a big tank man now.
Yeah, he doesn't look anything like the old Chris Redfield, and I will complain about that because, like, that's just weird.
People are saying that, like, I don't think it's the real Chris, and it's like, okay, come on.
Whatever.
No, they're just making him look more realistic to fit with the new art design for the series, Like, if you saw a big burly action man Chris in Resident Evil 7, you'd be like, what?
Who's this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know,
like,
he does.
not...
He'd be like, why did they transplant Chris's RE6 model into 7?
Yeah, like, people in the real world don't have biceps as big as their head, you know?
I mean, okay, so one more bit about Marvel's Capcom, because it fits in here. When Hulk tags in someone, he doesn't say their real name because he's Hulk. Mm-hmm. He gives them all a little nickname. For Chris, he says Rock Puncher.
Yes!
When he tags Chris in.
Awesome. Perfect. Boulder punching man. Go. Yeah.
So, but like, you know, people are complain like, when I saw Chris show up, I marked out. I was like, oh my god, it's Chris!
Yeah, it was I mean, it was fine, and I was really, because, like, again, I was surprised that I thought it was fine, because I don't care about the overarching plot of Resident Evil at all. Like, I don't give a shit. Because most of it is bad. Sorry, whoever is
most of it's just dumb zombie.
Most of it's dumb, and a lot of these characters are just goofy, like, cardboard cutout people, and I don't really, you know, like, I don't really worry about them, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I was, like you said, I was surprised to have enjoyed it as a Resident Evil game. And I enjoyed it as a Resident Evil game a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really about it. Like, it's a great addition into this franchise. Like, and it is a good
addition.
It is exactly what this franchise needed, because, you know, Resident Evil, like I said, I'm like sort of a tertiary fan, but it's so long standing, and it did so much for the survival horror genre that, you know, kind of like how Silent Hill, where it's like, even if you're not a fan, like, it sucks to see it decline in quality. Yeah. You know, after 5 and 6 and Revelations 1 and, like, just this string of bad showings, you know, it's good that they're back, and this will probably be the new formula going forward for the next, like, numbered installment, you know? They'll probably stick with...
Until they fuck it up again and they have to, you know...
find something new, yeah.
and until they inevitably fuck it up again, because that's what, you know, Capcom does. They actually have a button in the Capcom offices, and it's behind glass, and on that glass it says, in case of Resident Evil becoming shit again, break glass. And when you slap that button, it soft reboots the franchise.
Well, when you think about it, that's kind of like Capcom's MO for a lot of their series, you know?
You're right.
The Mega Man games will fluctuate, and they'll increase in quality and then drop down and then increase back in quality.
And then they'll forget Mega Man exists entirely.
Yeah, the Devil May Cry has all over the place. You know, Phoenix Wright, you know, arguably has, like, an increase in quality and then drops down and then goes back up.
Yes, it does.
You know, it happens, and that's just like Capcom's MO, and so, like, we're finally on the upswing again. So
until it starts getting bad again. Yeah. So please look forward to Resident Evil 8. So are we good?
I mean, like, yeah, I'm excited for
the DLC.
Yeah, Not a Hero to come out, because I'm actually like I was like, oh my, like, we talked about it earlier. I'm like, yeah, DLC is coming out where you play as Chris, and oh boy, great. But then, like, after seeing Chris and after playing this game and knowing that it's going to be Chris versus Lucas,
yeah, and it's free, which is nice.
So now I'm, like, excited, because, like we said, like, you know, Luke, like, you know, we talked about, like, we mentioned, like, the Resident Evil bits feel good. It's like, you and I were both marking out when we were doing Lucas's puzzle rooms, because we're like...
he's like a fucking Resident Evil character. Like, he's just he's just the most Resident Evil-ass character. You know what I mean?
He's taunting you on the radio. He's, you know, being a shithead to you. He's asking, he's like, Ethan, you know any girls? I need a girlfriend.
Yes.
While you're fighting this giant molded...
Yes, like, exactly. That's, like, it's ideal Resident Evil asshole villain.
He has that bit where where it's like the button combination, and he's slammed up against the door, and he's like, try this combination. No, wait. It's this one. No, wait. This one. It's like, that's good. That's brilliant.
It's brilliant Resident Evil writing. Yeah. And so, like, I really like Lucas as a villain, so I'm actually pretty excited for Not a Hero, because I'm actually excited to see what his and Chris's interactions are gonna be.
Yeah, well, it's gonna be, you know, ham-to-ham combat. You're gonna have your 90s action hero Chris against this wisecracking, diabolical, manipulative villain guy who's laying traps and stuff. It's going to be a big, dumb action movie.
And it's going to be, if I enjoy it as much as I like Resident Evil 7, it'll probably be pretty great. So, yeah. Good job, Capcom.
Yep, you did it. You did it! 2017 is the year to redeem yourselves, basically. Like, you're doing it.
You're doing it, and then you put out Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Whoopsie. But okay.
Yeah, I think...
One other thing, before we're done for the night, because if you haven't noticed, faithful listeners, we still have a little time.
Yeah, this has not been as long, and part of it is because, Resident Evil's pretty straightforward, so, there's not really a whole lot to really analyze. The information's all kind of there for you, and it's just a chance to really gush about it.
But there's also one other thing I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, and what is that? What is that other thing?
It's this little game on Steam. It's free. Everybody should go play it. Called Doki Doki Literature Club.
Oh, yes. We should talk about Doki Doki Literature Club.
We should talk about, and before we start Doki Doki Literature Club discussion, if you're listening and you have a PC and you want to play a good game, turn off this podcast right now, go to Steam, or they even have their own website. You can direct download it from your website, from their website. Go play Doki Doki Literature Club. It takes 3 hours. It's free. And it's probably some of the best horror writing of this year. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah,
that's literally it.
Don't watch trailers.
Don't watch the trailers.
Don't look up fan art. Don't look up reviews. Just go and play it, and then come back and listen to this because, trust us. Trust
us. So I'm gonna wait about 5 seconds. 2, 3, 4, 5. And now,
yes,
we can talk about Doki Doki Literature.
Now we can talk about the real Doki Doki Panic.
Cause Shut up. God. How long have you been holding on to that one?
I've been holding on to it forever.
You fuck.
I was 3 hours in, and I'm terrified out of my mind, and I went to bed, and I was like, this is the real Doki Doki Panic.
And then you were like, oh shit, that's a good one. I'm gonna hang on to it. Yeah, because holy shit, right?
This is a game that, even with all the content warnings in front of it, nothing can prepare you for what this game does. You see the content warnings, and, you get the idea right away that, it's gonna be a cutesy, dumb, dating sim visual novel, and then it's going to turn horrible. And it's
it's gonna have some horror twist, fine.
It's okay, yeah, I've seen School Days. I have seen Madoka.
Right.
I know the drill. Something bad's gonna happen any minute now. And then the bad thing does happen, and you are caught off guard by it, but it's not so much it's not so much like Story Suicide. It is what happens immediately afterward.
Yes.
Which is the game falling apart, and that's the scary part.
That is the scary, because at that part you realize, one, the game itself is kind of malevolent, which is always the best kind of plot hook. When you feel like your piece of media has brought something evil into your home, then you've definitely done something right. I joke a lot that I feel like my house is cursed because I have House of Leaves inside of it. And my computer felt cursed after I got through a significant portion of Doki Doki fuck you, Doki Doki Literature Club, because there were a few parts in this game where I was so uneasy with what was going on that I burned through it in a single night because I had the time. I had nothing to do that day. And there were a few portions where I was like, I need to turn this off. And then I thought, if I turn this off right now without seeing how this ends, I'm not gonna be able to sleep tonight.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I need to turn this off right now, or keep going and finish it and just get through it. And like I said, it's 3 hours long. Once you hit Act 2, you're done with it in no time.
Yeah, it's a game that does not care about your choices.
No.
And so, like, you don't have to necessarily go for anything particular. There's no strategy to it. You are on a ride, and you are being pulled along on this journey, and you don't have a choice in a lot of things.
And you know, it's such effective horror writing, because going back, because I kind of didn't want to pair this with Resident Evil 7 once I got done with it. Like, I realized we should probably stick these two together, because Resident Evil 7 at the beginning is kind of the same way, and it's that feeling, it's what makes horror really good, and it's why Resident Evil 7 isn't scary at the end of it, and it's helplessness. Helplessness is what makes horror. It's why scary movies are scary, because the people in them are helpless and they can't do anything to kill whatever it is trying to kill them. It's what makes Silent Hills 1 through 4 scary, because you're helpless and you're just an idiot who can't swing a board right to fight back against a monster. And in this case, with Doki Doki Literature Club, you are helpless to get off of the ride that Monica has forced you onto.
All you can do is click.
You can only click. You can kind of, steer yourselves towards certain routes. Like, you can get the beginnings of Natsuki's route at the beginning of Act 2. And so you get different scares than if you stayed on Yuri's route. But even then, like, it's still gonna end the same way. So in that way, it really is just a straight-up visual novel. But it is so effectively scary.
And just like Resident Evil, this game actually does a good job. It's because it takes like an hour before things start going south.
Yes.
And so,
like, it plays the visual novel part completely straight for the entirety of Act 1. And
just like Resident Evil 7, where it's like, you spend a pretty good amount of time before things actually go bad, and you're just wandering around an empty place that it's being set up for something bad to happen, and you know it's coming, and you're just waiting for it to happen.
Yeah, the tension. I think one of the most surprising things about DDLC is that it doesn't show its hand at all in the first act, and I really expected it to, because you cited Madoka, right? Madoka shows its hand at the beginning of the story. Not a lot.
No,
but I mean,
but
there
enough.
is kind of something, like, subtly kind of fucked up about Kyubey and everything that's going on, and you know, you kind of get this, especially with, like, the creepy monster cutouts, you get the sense that, like, this is not your average kind of magical girl story. You don't know how it's going to go south until the end of episode 3 happens. But you still kind of have a sense that, like, something's going to happen, because there's little visual cues all over the place.
Yeah.
DDLC does not do that at all.
No,
it completely plays it straight.
There's none. There's absolutely nothing throughout the entirety of Act 1 until the very, very end. You don't get anything. Even, like, the most, like, 'cause I did Yuri's route in the first act, which I feel really weird saying, oh, I did so-and-so's route, because, like, they're not really routes in the sense that, like, standard, like, visual novels have, like, dating sims, like, have routes. Like, you don't really, I would be more of, like, say, like, I got Yuri's cutscenes.
Yeah, that's, like, a good way to put it.
You know, because, like, you're not really doing a route. Like, it ends after Act 1, and it's done.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna end the same way every single time, you know.
So I did Yuri's, and, like, but, like, Yuri has, like, a few moments where she's like, oh, I collect knives, and I was like, what? But in Act 1, it doesn't go anywhere. Like, that, all the little, like, weird, like, references, or, like, you've, like, they kind of, like, set up the first act poems to, like, trick you into thinking something bad's going to go down.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like you read a line in a poem and you're like, wait, is that implying what? Ooh? Like, you anticipate the worst of it. You know?
But you don't anticipate, like, I still think it's so funny when you were playing, because when you started playing it, I had just finished it that night. It was, like, last Sunday. And I had just finished it, and I was just like, you need to play this right now. Like, right now. Oh my god. Because it's free, you know?
Yeah, it's free. Exactly. That's the easiest sell.
Yeah, exactly. 3 hours long and it's free. Holy shit. And you texted me and you were like, I can't wait for this scary shit to start happening because I'm ready for Natsuki to, like, get murdered.
Yeah.
I was
I'm like...
Because she's so annoying.
Yeah, well, your prediction is, okay, well, one of these girls is going to be a psycho murderer, and she's going to start slaughtering the rest of her classmates, you know, or, you know, one of them's going to be, like, ultra yandere, and she's going to start going berserk, and, you know...
Right.
There's going to be some sort... There's going to be, like... I guess, like, your standard Japanese kind of horror of this kind of genre, where it's, like, one of them is just going to have, like, a horrible home life or whatever, and it's... You're going to start, like... People are going to start dying. But, no, that's not the direction it goes.
No, you're expecting, like, horrible murders, you know, your standard, like you said, Japanese horror twist, where it's, like, really visceral murders and stuff like that. That's
you know,
your standard...
You're the current girl you're trying to date is standing over someone else with a butcher knife in her hand, and she's got blood splattered all over her, and it's like, okay, this is the horror, or Future Diary, you know?
Yeah, Future Diary, like you expect that kind of level of crazy fucking murder girl thing, but I didn't expect the game itself to kind of like turn on me. That was not what I was expecting.
Did not expect the game to fall apart on me.
Yeah, and I mean the whole, you know, you see Sayori hanging and you're like, oh god, that's horrible, and then everything starts going really wrong, like the screen starts glitching and the music gets all fucked up, and then, like, the command prompt pops up in the background.
Yeah.
And you're like, hold on, what? Wait, huh? What?
And then it goes back to the title screen, and Sayori's, like, portrait is corrupted.
And it's a combination of all the other girls' portraits instead. And then you restart the route, and it tries to start it with Sayori, and then just removes her entirely. Oh, man.
It's great, like, and then it goes from there, and then that's when you're on the ride, and that's when you're like, you don't have a choice, you have to keep going through it, and
you have to keep playing it. You have to see what happens next. Oh man,
you know, not even that, but it's just like, it's almost impossible to quit because, like, you're almost afraid to close the application.
I know, like, you're afraid something's gonna be waiting for you on your desktop if you do.
Yeah.
And I totally get that.
And then things start falling apart for the characters, and not just, like, their emotions, but also, like, their portraits get corrupted, they start speaking in random gibberish, the black outlines for the text gets bigger like, in a way that looks like it's being overwritten.
Yeah, because it clearly is being overwritten.
Yeah.
It's like Monica, like, exerting her will over the game. And I think one of the coolest parts about the game, I was watching this on YouTube and I was reading the wiki a lot of the scares are randomized. Like, yeah,
that's what really makes it appealing, is that, like, there are certain things where it's like, you might not even see this scary thing happen.
There's one scare that only happens literally, like, 0.8% of the time.
Yeah. Like, you know, so that, you know, even if you watch an LP, like a video of it, even if you do that, and you play it for yourself, like, you might still encounter something that is completely unexpected. It's a lot like PT in that regard, where it's like, well, I don't know how to trigger this event. It just happened for me, and I don't know what I did different from you, but I got a different result from here.
Yeah, something different happened. I don't think you got the Natsuki head snap because you stayed on Yuri's route.
Yeah. Well, I
tried
to lean towards Natsuki later on, but I think it was too late by that point.
Okay, so you didn't get the head snap.
No, but I did read about it because I read.
Head snap is horrible.
Yeah, I went and after I finished it, I went and read the TV tropes and I read the wiki to see what bits I missed, and I did see, like, I saw that, but not in my playthrough.
Yeah, that was horrible. That was, like, one of those moments I felt like my game was evil and I needed to just turn it off and, like, leave. Like, get out of my house. And then, I know you didn't get the Sayori poster change. You didn't get that one.
No, I didn't. I would have noticed, like, after I saw what it actually looks like, I'm like, I would have noticed if I saw that. Yeah. So, like, I don't think I got that in mine.
I got the Sayori poster change, and that was my first... I got it early, which was wild. I got it really, really early in the beginning. Like, the first day of Act 2, I got it. And that was my first major nope moment, the nope moment that everybody has. Because before then I was unsettled and I was definitely scared, but I wasn't like, nope, I need to turn this off. And then at one point the music kind of does a weird little jitter, and then the perspective of the room has like the camera goes in and then tilts. And it's a really subtle thing, but because the backgrounds are static, you notice it anyways. And it did that, and I was like, something's changed. And then I looked in the background, and I saw that the poster had changed, and I was like, oh, no, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. And it is those little moments are what really sells DDLC.
Yeah.
Some of the best horror writing of the year.
Yeah, some of, like, it's... I don't have a lot of experience with horror in general, but this one was really compelling and appealing in that sense, where it's just like there's no way to predict what's going to happen next. No. Once your HUD starts falling apart, once like the actual gameplay itself is not safe, all bets are off. Anything could happen at this point. Yeah. You can't prepare. Like, I can prepare myself for a yandere going nuts and murdering people. Like, I couldn't prepare for, like, a cutscene to play out, and then I don't know how it's going to go bad, or even if it will go bad. Yeah, and, like, the parts where, like, even your HUD starts falling apart, that's the scariest part to me, because... the HUD is like a safe space in video games. Yeah,
it's like the place where nothing can get you in the pause screen.
We talked about it with Resident Evil, where like the HUD being so minimalistic helps, but it's like, yeah, because you can always go to your map and like feel like you can plan your next action there.
And in a lot of times in Resident Evil 7, when the tension was too much, when we were playing it, I would pause the game and just kind of go like, okay, let's like gather yourself up and then get back into it.
Yeah, you have a chance to collect your thoughts, but like, especially one of the most tense moments ever is the argument in Act 2.
Yes. Oh, the argument in Act 2 is really, really unsettling, which is weird. And
there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, you can't stop it, you can't pause the game, you can't go to your settings, it just runs, and it's weird how unsettling the argument is, because the music is speeding up and the camera is zooming in too, but just like the things they're saying to each other are so horrible, and they're just really, really cruel, and that's how you feel like, oh god, I've definitely left the land of happy visual noveldom, where nobody is ever that mean to each other.
You've left the land of cupcakes at this point, like...
Yeah.
It's far, far gone now.
And it's so... it is weird how unsettled I was. And then, God, at the end of the argument where you keep trying to click somebody and then fucking Monica's face just pops up in front of the screen and it all just stops. And you're like, no, leave me alone. And she pops up in front of the text.
Yeah, in front of the text menu. That's another
weird thing. Yeah, that's another weird thing that unsettled me more than I expected, I guess just because interface screw really gets to me.
More, we talked about this while we were both playing it, where it's like, Eternal Darkness started this whole trend, and I wish it would have been more of a trend, and I wish more games would do what Eternal Darkness and what Doki Doki Literature Club do, which is, and Undertale to an extent as well, where it's like, it messes with you in a meta sense, where it's like, you're not safe anywhere. No matter what you do, like, this game will predict the actions of you, the player.
Yeah,
not your character on screen. It'll show you, like, that, it'll try to scare you, the person.
Yeah, and that's way more, because it does make you feel less safe. It makes you feel more like the game itself is out to get you and not just your player character. PT, I hate to keep going back to PT, but PT is some damn good horror. PT does it a lot with the loops and Lisa watching you and the game fucking up and randomly restarting on you when you really fuck up. It's those things that make it feel like the game itself is malevolent, and that's when video games really shine, because it's a thing that no other, like, you really couldn't.
You can't do that in a movie. You can't.
We talked about this with Nier in a different sense.
Yeah.
You couldn't make DDLC into like an anime, you know?
It would lose. It wouldn't have the impact. It wouldn't have what makes it actually terrifying. You could make an anime adaptation, but it would not. You would have to approach the horror in a different way.
Yeah, and it wouldn't. I don't think it would still not. It still wouldn't work in the same way. I really don't know how you could adapt it to be as scary as an anime, and I don't think it's possible. I've
thought about it a little bit, like just out of curiosity, like how would you adapt this into an anime? And the only thing I could think of would be that you would have to, and the other thing, you'd have to be redundant, but you would have to be a DVD or Blu-ray release only. Mm-hmm. And you would have to have some sort of trigger events in the episodes on the DVDs.
Oh yeah,
that
like
once they're completed, you know, then if you try to rewatch them, then it plays a different video.
But even then, that's basically a video game.
At that point, like it's basically the same approach. You know,
it's like an FMV game, but it's still kind of a video game.
And it's redundant, you know, it would be redundant, like where it's like, you know, where you watch the first 3 episodes of this cutesy, you know, basically quote unquote harem anime. Yeah. You know, and then, you know, you go to your friend's house and say, hey, let's watch this show, and you pop your DVD in, and it starts playing corrupted versions of it instead.
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be the only way you could do it, but again, that's just play the visual novel then, because that's what it's for.
Basically a video. Yeah, again, it's basically a video game at that point because there's like a game system. There's like a gamey nature to it, and like
you can't do this kind of thing. You can't do this interface screw. You can't do that with something that the human player cannot interact with. So you can do it in a book because House of Leaves does it. You know.
Yeah, House of Leaves does it very, very well.
But you can't do it in like a movie. You can't do it in a TV show. You can't do it like at a play, you know?
And even then, like a book is still different from a video game because a book you can skip ahead in. And in a video game, you're still kind of locked. So, you know, like it's like a movie in that case because you're locked into a certain time scale, which is as fast as you can read. With a book, you can just skip ahead as much as you want. And in a game, it's still different. It's still a completely different experience, and especially when the game starts talking to you, and not to the player character, which is when DDLC goes from like weird, and like it goes from being scary to being something different.
Yes, it goes to being a. We talk about this so much, but like, you know how great of a medium games are and how there's nothing like them, but like you can't really do what DDLC is in any other medium because it doesn't quite work, you know, talking to the actual player and not, you know, and there are certain things where like that it works. You know, you can like you can have a movie address the audience directly, you know, or something like that, or like even in a subtle way. You know, this is a completely different subject, but honestly, the Lego Movie does a really good job of this exact thing, where at the end, where Emmett's talking to Lord Business about how he is, you know, how he's amazing and do great things, it's set up so that Emmett is facing the camera, so he's talking to you, the audience, that way. You know, that's a very, very different thing than what DDLC does.
Yeah.
But it's the same idea.
But even then, it's hard to almost quantify that moment when the game shifts, because the other thing that DDLC does that like a movie can't do is that it's personalized, especially if you're playing on Steam and it uses your Steam name to address you.
Well, there's something else, and I just thought of this actually, and it really works well for this exactly because it is a visual novel dating sim. And the whole idea of a visual novel dating sim is that you are given a blank slate character to project yourself on.
Right.
You know, like all of the girls in your standard visual novel will address you as whatever name you type in, and it'll be acting like they're talking to you exactly, you know, but it's self-insertion. It's you know, but then there's that shift in DDLC where she stops talking to Protag-kun and starts talking to you.
Yeah, and because after that's considered Act 3,
Yeah.
In Act 3, which is just you and Monica in Purgatory, the protag character, which is different from yourself, never speaks again.
Yeah.
Like, he has no lines in the game. At that point, it's just she's directly interacting with you. She's not interacting with your avatar. Monica is actually having a conversation with you, and it's super. It's, again, that's the only way video games, like, it's the only place that works. It's in video games, to where she's just having a conversation with you, and she addresses you by name, and you can sit, and I tested it out the other night. You can sit and let that game run, and she will just keep having conversations. She has something like 54 conversations she can have with you.
Just little idle thoughts that she has and stuff that she talks about. And honestly, some of it's actually kind of endearing and encouraging a little bit.
It's kind of weird. I kind of felt bad by the end, but I wanted to see because I got the golden ending, and I really wanted to see the golden ending. But by the end of it, I felt kind of bad for Monica because she is a more, she, in the game's fiction, of course she's not real.
Yeah.
But in the game's fiction, she is like a real person compared to Sayori and Natsuki and Yuri, who seem
to be more like programs than AIs, like what Monica is sort of implied to be.
Yeah. Like, Monica is implied to be a person. She has, like, feelings, and she has regrets, and, she talks about really normal things, like her favorite color, and her food, and, all kinds of normal stuff like that, and, by the end of it, I did feel kind of bad about deleting her. I was like, oh, I'm sorry, forgive me. Even though she had just done all this, like, horrible shit. But again, you kind of have this weird feeling where it's like, well, how real... okay... In the fiction of the game, Sayori and Yuri, I don't know, maybe not. Like, their suffering was real? Question mark?
It's hard to say because, like, Monica implies that they're just archetypes that she kind of rewrote to be even greater exaggerations of those archetypes, and she even has, like, a couple monologues where she's like, why do people, like, if you met a person like Natsuki in real life, you wouldn't be endeared to her. You would be annoyed by her.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
And so she's kind of implying that those three are not really... Those are characters, and she is more of an intelligence.
Yeah. So, and that's, like, the weird thing, is that if you start thinking about it like that, if you start kind of putting it into that thought, where Monica is, like, an actual AI, and the others are just kind of programs that are doomed to always fall in love with you, you do just kind of end up mostly feeling bad for her, because it kind of feels like she's just trapped, and all of her poems are about, like, she broke the fourth wall, and now it's kind of like, oh god, I'm trapped in a video game, what do I do? And she mentions a lot, she feels kind of like there's a world outside of the game she's stuck in with, like, infinite possibilities, and she can't get to it. So you just kind of feel bad for her, which is weird, because she did some pretty fucked up stuff, but, like, how real are they?
Did she really hurt anyone? Like, did she really hurt anyone in existence?
Yeah. But then it goes into, like, that weird thing of, well, by deleting, because if you think about it, like, yeah, I felt kind of bad for Monica when I deleted her. Like, but she's not real.
Yeah.
But I felt bad about it, so, like, neither were the other girls.
It really reminds me, it reminds me a lot of when I mentioned this when we talked about Night in the Woods. Mm-hmm. Where I was like, you get to that bit where May talks about how she started dissociating when she was playing a video game, and she realized that none of the characters were real, and, like, all these feelings she had about these characters weren't real, and she's saying that while being really relatable as a video game character. And so it's kind of that weird meta sense that goes on here as well, where it's like, you feel bad for deleting her, but this game is, like, directly implying that none of them are real anyway, and it doesn't matter. They're all archetypes. They're all just the standard default cliches that form a basic thing that a person can project feelings on.
Right. And it's really weird. Like, so we have this game that starts out as your standard visual novel, and there's nothing even remotely hinting towards something scary, except, I mean, like, toward, like, something metaphysically or metatextually scary. Like, yeah, it has, you know, some weird, like, oh, this character might cut herself, and this character might have an abusive dad. That's weird. And then you get into Act 2, and it's, like, genuinely scary, where it's messing with your head as the player, and there's all these weird...
Where you can't trust anything.
Yeah, that's exactly it, where you can't trust the game at all, because the game seems to be actively conspiring against you to make your life harder, especially when Yuri kills herself. And then you're stuck watching her decompose for 1,440 lines of text, which is incredible.
Yeah.
And
even if you press the skip button on that, it still takes forever to get through.
Even skipping, it takes like 3 minutes or something like that. It's crazy. And then you have to, and then from there it goes from like weird psychological horror to, I don't even know how to describe Act 3.
Well, it's funny, because, like, by the time Act 3 happens, I don't think it kind of the same thing with Resident Evil, where it's, like, it stops being scary. Like, Act 3 isn't scary. Act 3 is mostly just, like, confusing, and you literally don't know what to do until, like, Monica has to actually tell you what to do.
Yeah, she kind of mentions it offhandishly, like, oh, please don't let anything happen to my character file.
Yeah, even to the point where she has to be like, my character file, which is located in this folder.
Please don't let anything bad happen to this vital character file, you know?
Yeah.
Actually, it's really funny and cute. She has one of her conversation lines that she says, if you made a copy of my character file and put it on a USB stick, it'd be kind of like I was going places with you. And I was like, oh, that's a weird thing to think about. And now, have you ever seen the movie? I guess not. The movie Her?
Oh, I know what you're talking about, though. Yeah,
it's a good movie. You should see it. It kind of feels like this feels like a horror version of Her. Has a great soundtrack, too. But... yeah, it's this weird, just, I don't even know. Like I said, I'm not really sure how to describe it. It's unsettling. It's not terrifying, it's unsettling. Act 2 is legitimately terrifying in a lot of places. Mm-hmm. Act 3 is just very unsettling. And then Act 4 depends on whether you got the golden ending or just the regular ending. Yeah. But either way, it's kind of this implication that the literature club can only ever be one thing, and that's people who are obsessively in love with you.
Yeah.
No matter what. And yeah.
And so
Doki Doki Literature Club.
It's very interesting, and I'm very excited to see what this studio does next, because there are a lot of hints and a lot of implications that there is far more coming for this. Yes. And there's a lot of, like, I would love to see them tie Doki Doki Literature Club into it in a very and I've told you, like one of the most basic ways they can do it is, you know, the character files that are in that folder, drag them into the whatever the next games folder is, and maybe something will happen. Right. Like, that's the most basic thing I can think of, and it's so obvious that, like, they're most assuredly not going to do it and instead do something completely different.
Yeah, I did say, you know, I was telling you in text messages that, like, Dan Salvato is the guy who produced this game, and I think Dan Salvato's done a good job of creating a player base that is, willing to screw around with like game files and understands the idea of jumping in and out of the game to accomplish goals. So it would be really cool to see if, you know, like the working title is Project Libitina. It would be interesting to see if things change if you had Libitina and DDLC running at the same time and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm just really interested to see what happens next, because there's a lot of interesting hints toward it. In some of that hidden, like, there's a lot of, if you just Google all the hidden text and shit in Doki Doki Literature Club, you'll find it all.
The character files themselves being decompiled of images, and if you recompile them, that one of the, I think it's Sayori is a ghost.
Yeah, Sayori has a
like a ghostly woman portrait instead of instead of her text file. Like, One of them I think is an MP3 or something. Yeah, it's just like there's so much. There's so much meta going on in here that I'm very excited to see how they approach that with their next project.
And they mentioned in a few places, just that in the hidden text files, but also in the game, the term "the third eye" comes up a lot.
Yeah, in Natsuki's route especially.
Yeah, which is interesting. So we'll see kind of where it goes. But Dan Salvato has a pretty good grasp of horror storytelling, and is very clearly a weeb. He actually has a Twitter where he talks about like Love Live and stuff, so he gets it. He understands.
Yeah, I will say one thing is that like this game does a really great job of actually looking like a generic Japanese visual novel.
Yeah, a lot of American visual novels kind of have their own style that's clearly American. This game actually looks like a Japanese
from the backgrounds to the way the shading is in the art. It's and even like the portraits themselves are like you could drop these into you could drop them into Fate,
Yeah,
like these they look like Fate characters basically, and
They have that same kind of glossy prettiness.
Yeah, and so it's amazing that this game looks as good as it does, and it pretends that it does a good job of disguising itself as someone who actually made it in America.
Yeah, and it's actually funny. I was reading that Dan Salvato, he said that Sayori's name is not an actual Japanese name. It's kind of it's a fusion of Sayori and Sayuri. But he said, he wanted it to sound Japanese enough. But Monica is nothing near a Japanese name.
Monica's just Monica.
It's Monica, yeah. And that was the point, actually, is he wanted her name to sound kind of different, so that you kind of had like a subconscious understanding that Monica was something outside the other girls, because her name isn't quite Japanese. And they actually, again, Monica has a conversation where she says, "Do you think we're really in Japan? Because there's actually no references to Japan anywhere in the game." They actually patched out a mention to, in like a later patch, they removed a mention to kanji, like the letters.
Yeah.
Because they wanted it to stay as ambiguous as possible, to again give you this sense of like
something's wrong.
Something's weird here, because there's no other characters that are ever even seen, and other Japanese, like other visual novels have throwaway references to like kids running down the school and stuff like that. The only time it gets mentioned is at the very beginning of the game, and that's it. Yeah. And even the simple fact that like out of the 4 portraits, only Monica is facing you. Yeah,
the rest are all at 3/4.
Yeah, it's so good. It's all these amazing little subtle things that make you go like, something's weird here. And you don't realize it until Act 2 hits, of course. But the whole time you're playing it, it's supposed to give you kind of like a subtle, subconscious feeling of strangeness.
And you're also, it also really helps that you were hyper aware of it because of the warnings that precede this game.
Yeah, exactly.
They're
so you're waiting for it.
You'd also almost think that like when you have like warning, this game should, if you're sensitive towards anxiety or depression, you should not play this game. And you almost think like, oh, well, they've spoiled the surprise. But no, all it's doing is setting you up for something bad's going to happen. I need to be on the lookout for what bad thing is going to happen, and you start jumping at shadows.
Right, and then, oh man, I still remember, God, it was so good, because you told me when you were getting to the last day of Act 1, when you first go to Sayori's bedroom, to ask her, like, what's wrong, why she's in such a funk. You told me, you said, I really expected her to be hanging from the ceiling.
Yes, I did. I texted you that.
You said that.
And then
I was like, oh! So you were jumping at shadows.
Yeah.
You were totally expecting something fucked up to happen. And then when it didn't happen, you're like, oh, okay, so something different is going to happen. Wrong.
No.
That is exactly what's going to happen. Just give it a day.
Yeah.
Amazing. So good. So go play. I mean, we just spoiled everything, but still, you should go play Doki Doki Literature.
Or if you have played it, go send Dan Salvato your love and tell him to get cracking on his next project, because like
yes. Or go try and get the golden ending. The golden ending is surprisingly heartwarming. You should try and get it. It's fun.
But yeah.
I think that's it for tonight.
I think so. We're back, baby.
We're back, baby.
We're back.
We did it.
We're gonna wrap up the rest of the year with 3 episodes a month, like always. We've got our Indie Week in November, and then we are replacing our Indie Week with our 2017 Roundup, which is just like... And we did the Christmas Chillcast last year, but this year, because there's so many fucking games that came out...
Oh my god.
Like, we've got to just do a roundup on everything that happened.
Because there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot.
About, like, Game of the Year and stuff like that, because we're finally here, so, yeah, look forward to it.
And then we've got a couple more things, a couple of smaller episodes coming out, and then I have one big game to finish up, and then we'll do a couple smaller ones that are coming up, so, yeah, it's good to be back. It was, this month off was, like, I think we both needed, like, the time to get caught up on our shit.
Yes, I definitely needed time to just kind of play video games for leisure instead of, like, as a job.
Yeah.
It can be a little, can be a little wearing sometimes to just play it as, like, oh god, I have to play this game tonight kind of thing, you know?
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it was good to get our stuff back set up and all that. And, yeah, I don't know if any of you... I've linked to it on the Twitter a few times, but I'm also, on top of, on this, I'm also posting... my D&D 5e campaign that I'm doing, and like I mentioned in Twitter, all it is just the audio. There's no presentation, there's no editing. It's just, we're recording it for posterity, and I'm putting it online in case anyone wants to check it out.
Yep.
And then Sarah, you do that more professionally, so what's your podcast like?
Yeah, I also do a D&D or a pen and paper RPG podcast called Big Gay Nerds. It's me and a bunch of friends get together. It's an LGBT RPG podcast where me and some friends get together, and once a month we have episodes that come out weekly. Once a month we try out different systems. Right now we're playing a kickstarted game called Pig Smoke, which is like Harry Potter except you play as the teachers. It's pretty rad. You should come check us out. We're at BGN-cast on Twitter. We're at Big Gay Nerds on SoundCloud, and we're at Big Gay Nerds on Tumblr. So you should come check us out.
Their Pig Smoke stuff is hilarious, and
I'm glad.
Loving it.
The creator of the game actually gave us a shout out on Twitter because it is such a small thing, so we're actually really excited about that.
Yeah, their character creation episode was great, and I love all the characters that came from it.
I know, I'm
so much
really
fun.
Excited for more. So yeah, you should go check us out. Thanks.
And you can find The Gorge at The Gorge Podcast on Twitter. You can email us about horror games at thegorgepodcast@gmail.com. And yeah, we ask for Patreon, patreon.com/thegorgepodcast.
Oh, hey, we actually have a patron. You wanna like do a little thank you to them?
I would, but they didn't send me anything. So hey, a patron who gave us, who donated, like, hey, let us know.
Thanks.
Like, thank you, and if you have something to plug, email us or get in touch with us somehow, tweet at us or whatever. Like, dude, we'll do it. You got the thing.
You rule. Thank you.
So we wanna do the thing for you. So just let us know what you want, and we'll plug it for you, buddy.
So is that it? Are we good?
I think that's it. It's hard because everyone is so good in this one.
Everybody is so good in this one. Fuck the molded. They're boring.
Fuck the molded for being boring.
They're boring. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.